The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 5 times, marking another morning in the Hayes mansion. Rosalie opened her eyes to the familiar ceiling of her bedroom. The pale blue walls that had become her world for the past 2 years. She rose quietly, knowing the routine by heart. The marble floors felt cold beneath her feet as she made her way to the bathroom. Everything in this house was beautiful and expensive, yet it all felt empty. She dressed in a simple cream sweater and jeans, clothes that nobody would see except the housekeeper. Downstairs, the kitchen gleamed with morning light. Rosalie prepared breakfast with practiced efficiency. 2 plates, 2 cups of coffee. 1 black with no sugar for Nathaniel. 1 with cream and honey for herself. At exactly 6:30, she heard his footsteps on the stairs. Nathaniel Hayes appeared in the doorway, looking every bit the powerful businessman he was. His dark suit fit him perfectly, his brown hair styled back from his face. He was handsome in a way that made people stop and stare, but Rosalie had learned not to let that affect her anymore. He picked up his coffee cup without looking at her, his eyes already on his phone. The same as every morning for 2 years. Rosalie sat across from him, eating her toast and watching him pretend she did not exist. Their marriage had been a business deal, pure and simple. Her father's art gallery was drowning in debt. The Hayes family needed their son married to improve his public image after a scandal with an actress. Her mother had cried when she signed the papers, but Rosalie had felt numb. Nathaniel finished his coffee and stood to leave. Rosalie watched him walk toward the door, his broad shoulders disappearing into the hallway. Not a single word exchanged. This was their marriage. The rest of the morning passed slowly. Rosalie tended to the small garden behind the house, the only place that felt truly hers. She planted roses and lavender, finding peace in the simple act of nurturing something alive. Her phone rarely rang these days. Most of her friends had drifted away. Uncomfortable with her strange marriage arrangement, around noon, her phone buzzed with a message. Nathaniel's name appeared on the screen, making her heart skip. He never texted during the day. Charity gala, tonight. 7 o'clock. Wear something formal? Car will pick you up at 6:30. Rosalie read the message 3 times, trying to understand. In 2 years of marriage, they had never attended a public event together. She was his secret wife, hidden away from the world that knew him as the eligible bachelor. She spent the afternoon in a daze, finally settling on a rose gold gown that had hung in her closet untouched since her wedding. The dress hugged her figure elegantly, making her dark hair and brown eyes stand out. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. The car arrived exactly on time. Nathaniel sat in the back seat, looking devastating in his black tuxedo. His blue eyes swept over her briefly before returning to his phone. Something flickered across his face, but it vanished too quickly to name. "You look presentable," he said, his voice neutral. Rosalie swallowed her disappointment and slid into the seat beside him. The drive to the hotel took 20 minutes, filled with silence so thick it felt suffocating. The Grand Plaza Hotel sparkled with lights and luxury. Cameras flashed as they stepped out of the car. Nathaniel's hand found the small of her back, guiding her through the crowd. His touch felt strange and electric, sending shivers up her spine. It was the first time he had touched her in months. Inside the ballroom, crystal chandeliers cast golden light over hundreds of guests. Nathaniel introduced her mechanically to various business partners and society members. "My wife Rosalie," he would say, giving nothing away in his tone. She smiled politely, playing her role. Then they met Cameron Drake. He was different from the others immediately. His green eyes were warm and kind, his smile genuine rather than practiced. When Nathaniel introduced them, Cameron took her hand and held it gently. "Mrs. Hayes," Cameron said, his voice rich and pleasant. "I had no idea Nathaniel was married to someone so captivating. He's been keeping you a secret." Rosalie felt heat rise in her cheeks. Nobody had called her captivating in a very long time. She caught Nathaniel's jaw tightening slightly. "Cameron is opening a new children's hospital downtown," Nathaniel explained, his voice carefully controlled. "He's looking for investors." "How wonderful," Rosalie said, finding herself genuinely interested. "That must be incredibly rewarding work." Cameron's face lit up as he talked about his project. He spoke about helping children, about making a real difference in the community. His passion was infectious, and Rosalie found herself smiling naturally for the first time in months. "You have a beautiful smile," Cameron observed. "I hope Nathaniel tells you that often." The comment hung in the air awkwardly. Nathaniel's hand pressed harder against her back. "Knew you work, Mrs. Hayes?" Cameron asked. "I used to manage an art gallery," Rosalie answered, surprised by the wistfulness in her own voice. "Before I got married." "What a terrible waste of talent," Cameron said, and Rosalie's heart warmed at the sincerity in his words. "Someone with your grace and intelligence should be sharing their gifts with the world." Before Nathaniel could respond, someone called Cameron away. But not before he pressed his business card into Rosalie's hand. "Would love to continue this conversation," he said with a meaningful look. "Perhaps over coffee sometime." The drive home felt different than the drive there. Tension filled the car like a living thing. Nathaniel's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white in the darkness. Rosalie stared out the window, Cameron's card hidden in her purse. "Interesting man." "That Cameron Drake," Rosalie finally said, testing the waters. "He seemed very interested in you," Nathaniel replied, his voice dangerous and low. Rosalie turned to look at her husband's profile. "Does that bother you?" "You are my wife," Nathaniel said flatly. "On paper only," Rosalie shot back, surprised by her own courage. "For 2 years, you have treated me like furniture in your beautiful house. Now suddenly you care who talks to me." Nathaniel pulled the car into their driveway and cut the engine. In the sudden silence, Rosalie could hear her own heartbeat pounding. He turned to face her, his blue eyes intense in the dim light. "Things are different now." "What things?" Rosalie demanded. "What changed, Nathaniel?" His jaw worked as if fighting some internal battle. "Everything," he finally said. Rosalie laughed, but there was pain in the sound. "You cannot just decide I matter because another man showed me kindness. That is not how this works." She got out of the car before he could respond, walking into the house with her head held high. Behind her, Nathaniel sat alone in the darkness, his carefully controlled world beginning to crack. Rosalie woke to the smell of coffee drifting up from downstairs. Her eyes opened slowly, confusion clouding her thoughts. Nathaniel always left before she woke up. The clock showed 6:15. Something was wrong. She pulled on her robe and walked downstairs cautiously. The sight in the kitchen made her stop completely. Nathaniel stood at the counter, still wearing his workout clothes, pouring coffee into 2 cups. The table was set with fresh croissants and fruit. "Good morning," he said, his voice softer than usual. Rosalie remained frozen in the doorway. "What is happening?" "Breakfast." Nathaniel gestured to the table. "I thought we could eat together. Since when do you eat breakfast at home?" The question came out sharper than she intended. Nathaniel set down the coffee pot and looked at her directly. "Since I realized I have been a terrible husband for 2 years," the words hung between them. Rosalie moved slowly to the table, sitting down across from him. She picked up a croissant, her hands trembling slightly. "One breakfast does not fix 2 years, Nathaniel, I know." He met her eyes steadily. "But it is a beginning." They ate in uncomfortable silence. Rosalie was painfully aware of how the morning light made his eyes look almost silver, how his hair was still damp from his shower, how his strong hands moved as he buttered his croissant. "I spoke with Cameron Drake yesterday," Nathaniel said suddenly. Rosalie's cup paused halfway to her lips. "About what?" "His hospital project. I told him Hayes Global would invest." Nathaniel watched her reaction carefully. "I also told him you would not be available for coffee." Anger flared in Rosalie's chest. "That was not your decision to make. You are right." Nathaniel leaned forward. "Which is why I have another proposal. Work with me at Hayes Global. We are expanding our arts and culture division. I need someone with your background." Rosalie stared at him. "You want to give me a job?" "I want to give you purpose. Partnership." Nathaniel hesitated. "And maybe a chance for us to know each other properly." Before Rosalie could answer, her phone rang. Cameron Drake's name appeared on the screen. She looked at Nathaniel, whose expression had gone cold, then answered, "Rosalie, hello?" Cameron's warm voice filled the space. I hope I am not calling too early. I wanted to invite you to lunch today. There is something I would like to discuss with you. Rosalie kept her eyes on Nathaniel as she spoke. Lunch sounds lovely, Cameron. What time? Nathaniel's face turned to stone. The moment she hung up, he stood abruptly. So that is your answer, he said, ice in his voice. We had 2 years to make me feel wanted, Rosalie replied, standing to face him. I will not reject kindness just because you suddenly remembered I exist. Lunch with Cameron, the restaurant Cameron chose, was elegant but warm, with large windows overlooking the river. He stood when Rosalie arrived, his smile genuine and welcoming. You look beautiful, Cameron said, pulling out her chair. That green dress brings out your eyes. Rosalie smiled, trying to ignore the guilt twisting in her stomach. Thank you for inviting me. They ordered food and talked easily. Cameron asked about her work at the gallery, her dreams, her thoughts on art. He listened like her words mattered, like she was fascinating. It felt intoxicating after 2 years of being invisible. I have a proposition, Cameron said over dessert. I am opening an art therapy program at the Children's Hospital. I need someone to direct it. Someone who understands both art and the human heart. Rosalie's breath caught. You want me to run it? I want you to build it from nothing. Make it yours. Cameron reached across the table, taking her hand. You have so much to offer, Rosalie. It is criminal that you have been hidden away. I am married, Cameron. The words came out weakly. Are you really? Cameron asked gently. Or are you just living in the same house as a stranger? The question cut deep because it was true. Rosalie pulled her hand back slowly. I need time to think. Of course, Cameron smiled. But while you think, remember that you deserve to be treasured. If Nathaniel cannot see that, perhaps he does not deserve you. The confession. Rosalie arrived home to find Nathaniel in the living room, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He looked up when she entered, his blue eyes stormy. How was lunch? His voice was deceptively calm. It was nice, Rosalie answered carefully. Cameron offered me a job. Of course he did. Nathaniel stood, walking toward her. And you are going to take it. Maybe I will. Rosalie lifted her chin. At least someone thinks I have value. You think I do not see your value? Nathaniel's voice rose. You think I have not noticed how beautiful you are? How intelligent? How graceful? You think I do not see you, Rosalie? You have never shown it, Rosalie shot back. 2 years, Nathaniel. 2 years of silence and distance. You made me feel invisible. I was protecting myself. The confession burst from him like a dam breaking. I was protecting my heart from feeling something real in a marriage that was supposed to be just business. Rosalie froze. What are you saying? Nathaniel moved closer, his eyes intense. I am saying that I started falling for you 6 months into our marriage. The way you tend your garden with such care, the way you read books in the library and get lost in the stories, the way you hum when you cook breakfast, thinking no one can hear. You noticed those things? Rosalie whispered. I noticed everything. Nathaniel's voice broke slightly, and it terrified me. So I pushed you away. I built walls. I convinced myself I could keep this just business. Then last night happened, he continued. I watched Cameron look at you the way I wanted to look at you. I watched you smile at him the way I wish you would smile at me. And I realized I was losing you before I ever really had you. Tears filled Rosalie's eyes. You cannot just say these things now. You hurt me, Nathaniel. You made me feel worthless, I know. Nathaniel reached up to cup her face gently. And I will spend every day making up for it if you give me a chance. But please, Rosalie, do not run to Cameron because I was too scared to show you my heart. The choice. Rosalie stepped back from his touch, her mind spinning. I need space to think. Take all the space you need, Nathaniel said quietly. But know this. I love you, Rosalie. I have loved you for longer than I want to admit, and I will fight for you. For us, the words she had dreamed of hearing for 2 years now felt overwhelming. Rosalie turned and walked to her room, closing the door behind her. She sat on her bed, Cameron's business card in one hand. Her wedding ring catching the light on the other, Cameron offered her freedom, purpose, and genuine affection. He saw her and valued her immediately. But Nathaniel offered something deeper: history, connection, love that had grown quietly in the darkness of their silent marriage. Her phone buzzed with a message from Cameron. "Thinking of you. I hope Nathaniel knows how lucky he is." Another message came through, this time from Nathaniel. "I am making dinner tonight. Nothing fancy. Please come down when you are ready. No pressure." Rosalie looked between the two messages, her heart torn. One man offered her everything she thought she wanted. The other offered everything she never knew she needed. She stood and walked to her window, looking down at the garden below. The roses she had planted were blooming beautifully, their growth slow but steady. Real things took time to grow. Real things required patience and care. The question was, did she still have patience left for a marriage that had started in silence? Or was it time to choose a new beginning with someone who saw her from the start? The answer would change everything. Rosalie stood before her mirror for a long time, studying her reflection. The woman looking back at her seemed different than the one who had married Nathaniel 2 years ago. That girl had been broken and desperate. This woman was stronger, even if she was confused. She changed into a simple burgundy dress and made her way downstairs. The smell of cooking filled the house, something that had never happened before. She followed it to the dining room and stopped. Candles flickered on the table. Soft music played from somewhere. Nathaniel stood by the stove in jeans and a white shirt, his sleeves rolled up. He looked vulnerable without his business armor, almost like a different person. "I made pasta," he said, turning to face her. "It might not be very good. I am learning." Rosalie felt something shift in her chest. "You cooked?" "I watched 3 videos online." Small, uncertain smile crossed his face. "The sauce might be terrible." She walked closer, looking at the table he had set so carefully. Fresh flowers from her garden sat in a vase. Her favorite wine was already poured. He had noticed these things about her, just like he said. "Sit, please," Nathaniel said softly. They ate slowly, the food surprisingly decent. Nathaniel told her about learning to cook that afternoon, about burning the first batch, about calling his assistant to ask what kind of wine Rosalie preferred. She found herself laughing at his stories, the sound surprising them both. "I never learned your favorite color," Nathaniel admitted, "or your favorite book, or what you dream about at night." Blue, Rosalie answered quietly. "Pride and Prejudice. And I dream about having a life that feels real instead of staged." Nathaniel set down his fork. "Ask me anything, everything. I want you to know me." They talked for hours. Nathaniel told her about his childhood, about the pressure of being a Hayes, about the loneliness of never knowing if people wanted him or his money. Rosalie shared her fears, her lost dreams, her quiet heartbreak of the past 2 years. "I was cruel to you," Nathaniel said, his voice heavy with regret. "I thought if I kept distance I could control my feelings. Instead, I just hurt us both." "Cameron sees me," Rosalie said, needing him to understand. "He makes me feel valuable. Cameron does not know you." Nathaniel leaned forward. "He sees a beautiful woman trapped in a cold marriage. He sees a rescue mission. I know you bite your lip when you are thinking hard. I know you always save the best bite of food for last. I know you cry during sad movies, but try to hide it." Tears filled Rosalie's eyes. "You noticed all of that?" "I noticed everything. I was just too scared to let you see that I cared." Nathaniel reached across the table, taking her hand gently. "Give me a real chance. Not Cameron. Not an escape. Give us a chance to be what we should have been from the beginning." The final meeting the next morning, Rosalie called Cameron and asked to meet him at a coffee shop downtown. She owed him honesty. Even though the conversation would hurt, Cameron arrived with his usual warm smile, but it faded when he saw her expression. "You are choosing him," he said, sitting down across from her. "I am choosing my marriage," Rosalie corrected gently. "There is a difference. He does not deserve you, Rosalie." Cameron's voice held frustration. 2 years of treating you like nothing, and now suddenly he cares? That is not love. That is possession. "Maybe you are right," Rosalie admitted. "Maybe he only woke up because you showed interest. But something real has been growing between us, even in the silence. I felt it last night. We talked for hours, Cameron. Really talked. And I saw the man behind the walls. I could give you so much more, Cameron argued. Freedom, partnership, a fresh start. But it would not be real, Rosalie said softly. I would always wonder if I ran away from something that could have been beautiful. I would always wonder if Nathaniel and I could have made it work. Cameron sat back, disappointment clear on his face. He is a lucky man. I hope he knows that. Thank you for seeing me, Rosalie said sincerely. For making me remember that I have value. I needed that. Promise me something, Cameron said as they stood to leave. If he hurts you again, if he goes back to treating you like nothing, you will leave. You deserve better than that, I promise. Rosalie agreed. But I think he has changed. I think we both have. The new beginning, Rosalie arrived home to find Nathaniel in the garden, kneeling beside her roses. He looked up when he heard her footsteps, hope and fear mixing in his blue eyes. I told Cameron I am staying, Rosalie said without preamble. Nathaniel stood slowly, as if afraid sudden movement would break the moment. You are staying. I am staying, she repeated. But Nathaniel, I need you to understand something. This is not forgiveness. This is a chance. A real chance for us to build something true. I will take it, Nathaniel said, his voice thick with emotion. I will take any chance you give me. No more separate bedrooms, Rosalie continued. No more silent breakfasts. No more pretending I do not exist. We are married, Nathaniel. Let us actually be married. Yes, he moved toward her, stopping just inches away. Anything you want. Everything you want. I want honesty, Rosalie said. I want real conversations. I want to know your fears and dreams. I want to be your partner, not your decoration. You have it all, Nathaniel promised. Every piece of me. He reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she did not, his hands cupped her face with such tenderness that fresh tears filled her eyes. I love you, Rosalie Bennett Hayes, he whispered. I have loved you through 2 years of my own stubborn blindness. I will love you for every year we have left. Show me, Rosalie breathed. Show me what love looks like. Nathaniel kissed her softly, his lips gentle against hers. It was nothing like the cold, brief kiss at their wedding. This kiss held promise and passion and 2 years of bottled feelings finally breaking free. When they pulled apart, Rosalie smiled up at him. That was better than our first kiss. Everything from now on will be better, Nathaniel promised. Starting today. Starting right now. He took her hand and led her toward the house. I have something to show you. He brought her to the library, where blueprints were spread across the desk. I had architects draw these up this morning. You approve? We are building an art gallery on the east side of the property. Your gallery can showcase local artists, teach classes, do whatever you want. Rosalie stared at the plans, overwhelmed. You did this for me? I am doing everything for you now, Nathaniel said simply, making up for lost time. 6 months later, the garden party was in full swing. Music drifted across the lawn where guests mingled and laughed. Rosalie stood beside Nathaniel, his arm wrapped around her waist in a gesture that had become natural. Happy? He asked, pressing a kiss to her temple. Very, Rosalie answered honestly. Her gallery had opened last month to wonderful reviews. She spent her days working with artists and teaching children from the community. But Nathaniel had cut back his hours at Hayes Global to spend more time with her. They had breakfast together. Every morning, dinner together, every evening, and fell asleep in each other's arms every night. The past 2 years had not disappeared. Pain was still there, buried beneath the new happiness. But they were building something real on top of it. Something stronger for having survived the silence. Thank you, Rosalie said suddenly. For what? Nathaniel looked down at her. For fighting for us? For changing. For loving me enough to become better. Thank you for staying, Nathaniel replied. For giving me the chance I did not deserve. For seeing the man I could be instead of just the man I was. They kissed softly. As the sun set behind them, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, around them, the garden bloomed with roses that Rosalie had planted. Some from 2 years ago, some from last month. All of them growing, just like their love. It had not been a perfect journey. It had been painful and complicated and messy, but it was real. And real was always better than perfect. Their marriage had started as a business deal. It survived 2 years of silence and distance. And now, finally, it was becoming what it always should have been, a true love story. The end.